very good evening from Bhutan. I'm in my home here in Thimphu. I just got back from Punakha, where I spent the last 2 weeks conducting communication skills training for our young Desups. Actually, they are licensed tour guides. I think three-fourths of them I had taught them last year in Buddhism and iconography, and I mentioned to the DSP management that our communication skills, our writing skills of our Desups and Bhutanese in general is not quite up to the mark, and I was very happy to come back and do that. So I just kept my words to do that. So I just got back here. Basically, my background, or my last background, I would say, in my third career is in communication. So I'm not a historian, as I mentioned to Dorji. But nevertheless, where our roles intersect is in the art of storytelling. So oral history is about storytelling, and me as a communication scholar, I use a lot of storytelling in my teaching as well as in my talks. So both in university classes as well as in the talks that I give everywhere, I use the power of storytelling. So this is what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully this will inspire all our teachers, especially. I'm addressing the teachers especially because they are in every part of Bhutan, and we would like to someday see oral stories being recorded and shared from every part of Bhutan. And of course, that does not mean that people who are outside the countries do not have a role. We all have a role as Bhutanese. We all have a role as humans, because just as the power of oral history is important for Bhutan as a country, as a nation, as a community, we are part of the greater humanity, and our stories will someday should be able to inspire the world. And I guess this is already happening through our initiatives such as GNH and now with the Mindfulness City. So let me go to my presentation. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes, Atta.
Oh, that's okay. So my talk today is very ambitious, as you can see, the power of storytelling for nation building, community vitality, and self-actualization. And of course, that means I will just be touching the surface of these three big topics. Nevertheless, this is something that I have been working on in my PhD research. Some of you might be aware of my talks and the articles that I wrote on what it means to be Bhutanese based on my PhD dissertation. So as I said, I just completed a 2-week course and for communication skills. And because of whatever background our young Desups come from, I decided to design a course specifically for them. Communication is a very broad and deep as subject, as a field. There are as many as 125 definition of communication. So it depends on the sender and the receiver. So I decided that because our young Desups mainly come from disadvantaged position, I wanted to share to them that what they may be communicating in their daily lives as human being, as a person, may be communicating from their disadvantaged position, but that we can change the story, we can change the narrative, because if they continue to communicate that way, they will most probably linger in that area. So I just shared how they can change the story of themselves. So this is in continuation. Basically, this session is almost like a continuation of what I was already doing in the last 2 weeks. So 3 areas: storytelling as a process of self-actualization as the construction of self-identity, storytelling in the sustenance of community vitality, how we can how we can stay united as community or communities through the art of storytelling, and then storytelling and its importance in the construction of national identity. So, as Dorji has mentioned, we have always be telling stories. So here, the definition that I'll be using for today's will be the activity of writing, telling, and reading stories, and how they relate to us as human beings, us as a community, and us as a nation. We have always told stories. Actually, the history of storytelling is 99% longer than the modern history of telling stories or not telling stories. So for over 100,000 years, we have been telling stories, and we have been thriving as a species because of that, as Lou just mentioned. But for the last 300 years, we have been telling stories, but the medium has changed, but the storytelling has remained. So I consider media as a storytelling. I consider news as a storytelling. I consider documentaries and films as storytelling. And I think the central piece of whether it's a news or a current affairs program or Zhongsa Kensei's movie, the key ingredient in all the three are stories that we tell. People love stories because they, first of all, they mirror our lives, the facts and feelings. It interweaves also reasons, mysteries, and different reactions. Stories also cause people to reflect deep into their lives. So when I shared my personal story of struggles and achievements, and then struggles and achievement, a roller coaster, I'm 58 this year, so you can imagine how many roller coaster rides that I have done. And we all have been through that. And when I told them about my struggles, everyone in the room were almost in tears because it spoke to them. My stories reflected theirs, although I may be considered whatever, I'm considered these days. But then we have a common story. Every culture has told stories to socialize the young, to develop values that's appropriate or not appropriate to the society, and to formulate right behaviors. So this has been an ongoing process for the last 100,000 years. Now, stories. Why stories are powerful is also that there is physiological thing happening. Stories seem to activate our right brain. So the right brain is the brain of imagination, is the brain of creativity, is the brain that is illogical or not rational, and we have the rational brain that's on the left. So stories have proved, and neuroscientists have found evidence that it activates the right areas of our human brain. Imagination. Then what happens is that it activates our emotions. So those who are very familiar with the three areas of our brain, okay, we have the frontal neocortex, which is the logical and the rational brain, somewhere planted behind our forehead. Then we have the limbic area of the brain, which we call the emotional area of the brain, which is a little deeper inside. And of course, the deepest part is called the reptilian brain. Now, stories and imagination, or stories in particular, personal stories, they seem to activate our inner limbic area of the brain, the emotional brain. So that's why stories stick, stories remain, stories really. So, for instance, last year I taught iconography. Like the ones you see behind me, Chenriji Chatong Chentong, or Chana Dorji, Guru Rinpoche, Guru Dragmar, all this. Now, besides teaching them what those iconography represents, whether the deity has a vajra or a kilaya or a victory banner, I did that, but then one thing that I also shared to them were stories about Vajrapani, stories about Avalokiteshvara, stories about Nagarjuna, and when they then appeared for their assessment, for their certification, they shared those with the examiners, and now the people that we have trained at Desung Skilling Program, they are standing out among the new crops of guides in the industry, because they are able to tell the stories, not just whether Guru is holding a vajra or a kilaya, because that a tourist would forget the moment they come out of the temple. But the story of Vajrapani as someone who was taking care of the Nagas when Buddha made his first teaching in Sarnath, or Avalokiteshvara, with 1,000 arms, 1,000 hands, 11 heads. How did he appeared, or how did he come to possess that 11 heads? 11 heads. The stories stuck with the tourist, stuck with the visitors more than the religious implements that these deities are holding. So imagination and emotions are longer lasting than the memory that we hold in the frontal neocortex. So that's why story or storytelling is powerful. So that has been scientifically proven. Now, coming back to talking about storytelling as a means for self-actualization or community sustenance or identity or national identity building. The theoretical perspective, one of the theoretical perspectives that come from my discipline is the constitutive perspectives in communication. So in other words, the constitutive perspective in communication posits that communication is not merely about information sharing from a sender to a receiver, but then it constitutes the reality. It constitutes and constructs the reality. So, in other words, when we communicate, both the sender and the receiver are in continuous process of meaning making, not just receiving like a machine. So that the earlier model is called the linear model of communication, which was written by two engineers at Bell, Shannon and Weaver. But communication as a sociology, as a communication as a constitutive, communication as the construction of reality. Through communication that we construct reality is a new perspective in communication, which is gaining momentum, which is also gaining a lot of interest among sociologists as well as among communication scholars. It was first proposed by Robert Craig. So at the end of there are references if anyone is interested. I've given references to all the things that I share tonight here, so you can check out if you are interested. So in terms of self-actualization, what these constitutive perspective to communication tells is that we become the stories we tell ourselves, or we are the stories we tell ourselves, meaning that we ultimately, the stories that we tell, the stories that we keep replaying in our head, we become or we identify with that. So in other words, we don't really communicate. We don't really just communicate, but we communicate who we are as human being, who as a self identity. So our identity gets communicated with things we say on an everyday basis, on a moment to moment. So for example, I had a colleague, I don't want to name him, whose stories I remember were stories of things like when I was there, when I was head of that department, there used to be someone who was very cocky, one cocky young guy. I managed to fix him or fix her. Or another time it would be like, his story would be always like, that person was acting too smart, So what I did, I managed to cut her, cancel her scholarship, which she had worked through someone, my deputy or the officiating, saying like things like, when I was on a tour, somebody was working behind me, with my deputy or with my officiating, and they had secured a scholarship. When I came back to the office, when I joined my office, I managed to just cancel the both and then reprimand this too. So these are the stories that that person is known for saying. So what kind of person that do you think that person is? On the other hand, what we communicate is what we become. And this is another bold statement. But let me give you an example. And this time I will example of a person, or a story of a person. Everyone is familiar with Greener Way. This crazy guy called Karma Yantan. So he appeared in my office 10 years back. He was trying to get a license to open this recycling, and he really wanted to solve the trash problem in Thimphu. A young guy, and he started saying, "Yeah, I believe that we can make cash out of trash. I believe I will be solving, Thimphu's growing trash problem. I think this is how I'll be contributing, to the nation building." And I think I was the only one who was impressed, because he was having tough time getting a license to do that. But through my position when I was working at HMS, I helped. I think I helped him secure his license and start his work. And today, 10 years down the line, Greener Way, we all depend on Greener Way to clean our waste from our home. Recently, I was cleaning my backyard, and I had to call him. I took his service to really clean my background, and then help me throw away the trash that was coming out from my backyard. So now Greener Way is a big name. So he has become what he believed back then. So there is a very interesting TED talk by Laurie Gottlieb. It is titled "Change Your Story and You Will Change Your Life." And this is something that I invite you everyone to take a look, and then really sort of find ways to rewrite your story. So on the other hand, what I would like to also share here is that as a person, as a human being, as a citizen, as a member of a community, I think you need to be aware, or you need to be mindful about what stories you are saying, or mind your language, in other words, because whatever things that you are saying is ultimately becomes the truth. This is increasingly being proven through different research, different studies being done. So, and whatever stories that you shape for your future is what you will become. So, is yours a story of being a victim of corruption, being a victim of nepotism, being a victim of injustice? If you continue to play that story in your head, you will remain as a victim of injustice, victim of nepotism, victim of corruption. But then, how do you change? But that's not what we all like to be. We want to improve. We want to enhance. We want to move forward. So, in other words, you have to change your stories. So, my own experience, to share my own experience, there was a time in BBS when I was feeling that a lot of injustice, things like that was in 2005. Things were not going right for me, and I kept saying, like, why should I be the one who leaves this country? This organization. I'm not going to resign. I built this place. I brought television to the country. I built all the FM stations. I built and that was the story that I kept ringing on my head. Then one fine day, something happened, and I kept saying, why is it? Maybe my story here is ending. Maybe my melam is over. Maybe my lungten is somewhere. My destiny is somewhere. And the moment I changed the story on my head is the time I got the courage to just sign my resignation letter, drop it, and just walk away. And of course, I think that was one of the best things that I did in my life. In terms of changing my story. Okay, so as you complete, what I want you all to down is, what is your story? What is ringing in your head? What is the story that you want to write hereafter? So a little bit of homework. I invite you all to do this, and I did this with the young Desups, and they did an incredible job of committing themselves to rewriting their story. Let me move on to power stories in community sustenance and nation building. Cultures that have strong, proven oral traditions have survived bad things like colonialism or occupation or or invasions. So, in particular, I always quote two cultures, India and New Zealand. India, as we all know, suffered 250 years of British colonial history, but nothing much changed except that they became poorer, they got ripped off. But then India remained as India. And I attribute everything to the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata. They kept the story, they kept the nation of India together. Those of you who are in Australia, you may be familiar with the Maoris of New Zealand. The story of their ancestor, the first ancestor, Paikea, who came on a whale from some distant land, holds the Maoris together, and it is one of the most told stories among the Maori children. And now even the white New Zealanders, they are inspired by this story, and the story of Paikea still continues to hold New Zealand together. One last thing on this story telling as communal and national identity comes from the works of sociologist Benedict Anderson, whom I copied a lot copied meaning like I was inspired, and I cited, not copied, sorry, cited in my dissertation, where nation is considered as an imagined community. So in other words, take for example Bhutan. We are united as one nation, or we are an imagined community, because imagine as in we will never get to actually meet each and every person that is under that's Bhutanese living in Bhutan or living outside Bhutan, but we consider ourselves as one community, and that is we imagine ourselves as one community. And this shared sense of togetherness is because of the shared narratives, the shared symbols such as national flag, symbols such as as the institution of monarchy, cultural practices such as visiting temples, doing loche, doing seha. These are cultural practices. And Benedict Anderson mentioned about the role of mass media in the construction of this imagined community. So let me give you an example. When I was growing up, we didn't have BBS radio. I'm talking about mid 70s to mid 80s. All of us who were fortunate enough to own a radio, we listened to Radio Nepal and All India Radio, and sometimes to Radio Australia and BBC. But then something magical happened. In 1986, BBS, Bhutan Broadcasting Service, started. So before the existence of Bhutan Broadcasting Service, our eyes and ears were all directed outwards. So we were listening to Radio Nepal, we were listening to Akashwani Guwahati or Akashwani Kharsang and Akashwani Kolkata, and we were consuming Hindi songs, Nepali songs, and I must say that during those years, our values, our heroes were not our own national heroes. My hero was Amitabh Bachchan because I was addicted to Hindi movie. My hero was Prakash Shastra, a Nepali singer who's still alive and whose song I still enjoy. But then with mass media such as Kunsal and BBS, we started listening to Amtinlem. We started listening to Abdope. We started listening to later to Rinshinamge and people. So what happens then is that in these shared cultural symbols and cultural practices and even folk music and folk tales, what happened is that now because we share the same Purvatine jokes, because we love the same Rinshinamge songs, Rinshinamge may be a little too old for the younger people, but let's say Ugin Pandey. I love Ugin Pandey. These art or the cultural properties or new cultural properties unite us as Bhutanese. So it's not just this or that institution that brings keeps us together as one people, as a one nation, but all these culture symbols, practices, and the stories. And what about story of up Wangchuk, and for those of us in the east, the stories of Hasisangma. So these stories are very important to be told and retold because they keep our communities and our countries together. Simple example: local deities of Genin. Because my daughter got her name from Deshinpu, so of course, getting her name from Dechenpu, she is called Dechen. Whenever she comes, she is in Perth doing her university studies. So in winter, she comes here. She is so close to Upkenin that sometimes she visits Dechenpu first, and then maybe after that call me because I will be always roaming around the country or around the world. And only after she has visited Upkenin, does she then call her cousins and her aunts and aunties to say that I'm back. So that is the power of local deities, heroes, ancestors, and that relationship is what makes us Bhutanese. Everyone, all of us who are living in Thimphu, we go to Janganka, we go to Dechinpu. So these local deities unite us. And in my dissertation, I mentioned about. I wrote a piece on Kunsel based on my dissertation. It's called "In the Deities We Unite." And what I invite is every Bhutanese to be mindful about all these elements, all these institutions, all the things that unite us as Bhutanese. So to end, my favorite quote is from another British scholar by the name of Stuart Hall, where he says that national identity is a story we tell ourselves. How powerful that can be. National identity is a story we tell ourselves. So I interviewed around 50 Gelsups for a new program in DSP, and I asked them one question to everyone: describe to me Bhutan in one word. And I think around 15 or 16 Gelsups used the word peaceful. Many described Bhutan as the happiness nation, happy country, happy nation. Happiness was the second most quoted word. So if we as Bhutanese, if we say that Bhutan is a happy country, Bhutan is a peaceful country, Bhutan is, then that is what we will ultimately become, and that is who we are. And that is, I think, very important. And now coming finally to the art of oral history and oral tradition that we must preserve. I guess now you all you all understand the meaning and the importance of it, because if we can tell the story of Chongtongma, if we can tell the story of Amjomo, if we can tell the stories of Memeralang, so these are all deities and mythical figures of Eastern Bhutan. These are stories that hold our communities together. When I wrote a piece on Chongtongma, I got lot of nostalgic nostalgic stories from people who grew up around Tashigang and Tashiangsi area, Pongme, Ramjer, this area, because they all grew up hearing the story of Chongtongma. So an invitation to everyone, because we grew up listening to these stories. Please document these stories, write these stories, tell these stories. And one thing that I have been suggesting to Dorji is, let's start an oral history association of Bhutan, see what happens, and we just deposit the stories, that we have heard from our forefathers there. Doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be evidenced, as we all like to say these days, but these are the stories that will keep us together as one community, one nation, one people. These are the stories that will make us Bhutanese, because these are the stories that we care, and these are the stories that we should be caring for more. This is a story that identifies us as Bhutanese. For example, who cares about an American Civil War hero? Who remembers, or who I have studied those things, but that's not us. I would rather have a detailed story of Langchen Pelkesinghe, who was the guy who meditated at Taksang. I would like to know more about now. I'm reading all the stories of Drukpa Khenle by my friend Nirup Zangpo, who wrote that book. These are the stories. The stories of Drukpa Khenle unites us, keeps us together. So, an invitation to everyone. So three invitation. First of all, a personal invitation as an elder. I suppose I am the eldest here in this group. Yes. What is your story? What is a story that's ringing in your head? And if you want to make a world a better place, a country a better place, yourself a better person, and a more prosperous person, you need to change the story that may be ringing in your head. As a community, I would like to see stories from all over Bhutan. All the teachers, please, contribute to this storytelling storytelling initiative that I think Dorji is slowly working on, because that is very important for us to stay as one nation. And lastly, as a country, as Bhutan, as our beloved country, what is the story that we want to tell ourselves? So thank you very much, and I hope I didn't. I don't know how long I spoke for, but let me now invite ideas and comments and feedbacks, and I hand over to you, Dorji.